the Grey Hat Beard podcast.
Hello and welcome to show 32 of Grey Hat Beards, the modern workplace podcast where we talk about all things Microsoft 365. I'm the Grey of Grey Hat Beard. My name's Kevin McDonald. I'm a solutions architect at CPS.
I'm the Hat of Grey Hat Beard. My name's Alan Erdley. I'm an Office MVP and Head of Modern Workplace at CPS.
And I'm the Beard of Grey Hat Beard. So my name is Gary Trinder. I'm a solutions architect at CPS, a PMP team member and an office development MVP.
And we are very lucky to be joined. Those who are watching on video may have noticed already, but we have, now I forgot before the show to check how to say your name. So I'm going to try this, and apologies if I butcher it, but it's Christos Matskas.
Very close. Yes. Hi.
Nice to be here. Microsoft, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I work as a program manager for Microsoft Identity in the developer advocacy division. And my role is to reach out to developers and communities and help them write more secure apps.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So Christos will be joining us for part one. We talk about the news, and then you'll hear the second part of it next week, where we go into a bit more detail on things on there. But let's crack on with the news. And I think it's fair to say another week where I kind of started going and, there's not much news. There's nothing to talk about. And then a bit more came out and then a bit more came out. And I was like, yeah, OK, we got too much to talk about. But I think actually, we have a little bit of news of our own before we go into the main news. We now have 109 subscribers to our YouTube channel, which means we've got a custom URL. Yes. So nice and easy now, youtube.com/greyhatbeard. And a big thank you to all those people who helped get us over that line on Friday. Took a little while for it to get through, but thank you very much. It makes it a lot easier to get hold of us.
Yeah, we've got lots of relatives, cats, dogs.
Yeah, now we've got to pay them all, huh?
Yeah. You joke, my 9-year-old son's friend has actually subscribed as well. So getting all sorts of things. I'm hoping he's not going to comment and put all sorts of rude things underneath. Yeah, exactly. In slightly smaller news, there was a bit of an acquisition this week as Microsoft bought Nuance for $16 billion, which is not a bad bit of money. And it's interesting. Everyone's been talking about Nuance as the pioneer and how they helped set up Apple Siri. They've obviously gone, Microsoft, Apple. The story here is all about it being Microsoft buying an Apple company. But I think what is, to me, is more interesting is Microsoft buying into that healthcare side of things, that they're seeing all the work that Nuance has been doing with healthcare. And something like 77% of US hospitals, they provide services for speech recognition and medical transcription. So they're obviously well embedded in that healthcare area. And I guess I'm sure Microsoft won't be not using the technology, but I think it's getting into that market and getting the products into that as well.
If you think about medical and healthcare and all the terms and transcription and trying to actually just make sense of what doctors are saying.
It's true.
My parents unfortunately regularly go off to the hospital and have consultations about this, that and the other, and they're always saying, can you show me how to use my phone again so I can record the meeting? So anything that helps people actually have a record of what they're doing and to make sense of it, and I think that's the important thing, if things are spelt correctly so they can actually
so your parents help that they record the meetings with a doctor so they can kind of listen back later. What a great idea.
Yeah, because otherwise they're not going to remember. And if they write it down, they're not going to write so quickly. And so if they record it, they can then try and retrospectively work out how to spell all the complicated words. So they can then Google them and go off and look them up. So yeah, I can really see how this could be really helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, and people who can't use Teams and click on the wrong button and leave the meeting quickly by mistake.
Yeah, who'd do that? Oops.
No, I think this is really interesting. I worked, my previous company was doing a lot more software development, and we worked with a company, I don't know if they're still trying to do things, but they developed a product that you could hang your kind of touch screen Windows machines on a wall, and you could hook up with Bluetooth to have your blood pressure monitors with the aim of getting more remote. And the main developer there is based out in Montana, and they just knew how dispersed people were. And one of the struggles was everyone wanted speech recognition, and we tried some of the speech stuff at the time, and it was a few years back, and it's fair to say it wasn't quite as advanced as it's got now, but or certainly when they first developed it. But yeah, I can see a big move there. Good seeing Microsoft with lots of money as well, and trying to work out what to do with it. I mean,
a lot less
I know,
money
Christos, you may be thinking maybe they could just play it back into their staff a little bit more, but you know.
Hey, it's way above my pay grade to make any decisions at that level, especially when it comes to billions. But I think the whole point is unifying that kind of the AI capabilities we have and enhancing the AI capabilities that we have with the medical industry, because we're seeing a lot more telemedicine these days, and it's becoming vital for reaching out people, especially with COVID, that people can't really leave the house, and it's so much safer now to do it remotely. Having the ability to do it like that and have AI enhance the whole experience, even as you say, using something like cognitive services where you can translate to multiple languages at the same time. Mm-hmm. You know, if my father-in-law was here and we had to do telemedicine for him, he does know English, so being able to translate to Greek, for example, that would be brilliant, and we don't have to be there to translate back and forth. So the capabilities are becoming more and more mainstream these days. And
my wife's a pharmacist, and I've used Google and Bing Translate to translate things back and forth.
Yeah,
I dread to think what mistakes that could lead to, but yeah, which is I guess why you want the best company possible to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, it's also the ethics, the data management. At least from that perspective, Microsoft has always respected their customers' data. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's HIPAA and all these other things that protect you as an end user, but at the same time, AI needs data to work efficiently. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the future holds. We had Seth Juarez the other day on our show to come and talk to us about machine learning, and I asked him about that, and he was equally as clueless as I was with regards to the decision what can happen. But you know, LinkedIn is part of our platform now, and you know, we're using that everywhere these days. And you guys are in the Office 65, so you know, LinkedIn is built in now a lot in profiles and all the other information. So I don't know where it's gonna go, but I'm excited about the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'd be interesting which way it goes, whether it's sort of more the LinkedIn and GitHub where that identity's remained, or whether it will be like some of the other ones, which I'm trying to think that have disappeared with the
industry.
Names and things.
You've got the industry platforms coming into Dynamics and into Teams. You've got all of the medical specific teams as well. So there's already that, you know, that vertical specification around this is what we need for this vertical to make it easier. They roll this kind of stuff into, you know, the ward rounds, and as you say, Christos, it's going to embed itself in ways that we just can't foresee at the moment, and especially not being in the medical profession, ways we probably can't imagine.
Yeah, it's interesting. Moving on to something a little bit closer to the main theme of this show is Al. You found an article with an interview with Troy Hunt, the founder of Have I Been Pwned, which I can't say properly. I'm just going to sound embarrassing and like an old man, but
it's a really it's came out about a week ago, and it's a really good conversation around how we secure our identities, not just from a corporate perspective, but just generally in terms of what some of the risks are, what some of the threats are, some of the things that maybe Troy is thinking about more than we would normally think about. So, you know, for example, some of the big risks, you know, the ability to transfer your phone number, or for somebody malicious to transfer your phone number. You know, how many of us actually, you know, we have everything keyed into our phone number. All of our MFA might be in an app, you know, so how do we actually manage that security risk around how we retain our phone number? There's just some interesting differences on perspective. You know, passwordless, you know, it's been spoken about for many, many years, you know, a bit like self-serve BI. It's something that we all aspire to, but how far away are we? You know, when we look at it now, we might be using facial recognition a bit more. We might be using authenticator apps, but actually, as Troy points out in the article, to get that all set up, you probably need to put in 4 or 5 passwords. So it's not like we are passwordless. We've just moved away and we're using different tools as a proxy for a password, not that we have no passwords. So it's just, yeah, it's a really interesting article to read through. And as I say, it's not just sort of corporate, it's just generally as individuals, how should we think a little more about the passwords, the security, our identity, and other risks that, you know, we haven't necessarily considered. You know, it's not just about throwing your rubbish out the door and shredding it instead. It's how you look after your phone number. How do you make sure that your biometrics are a little more secured?
Yeah, it's going to the trouble of realizing that your online identity is just like, you know, some of the things you'd have in your wallet, like you'd have your, you know, your cards and bank cards and things. Your identity is, it's the same online, right? You need to treat it you wouldn't just, you know, kind of throw your wallet out at people, but you do it online sometimes, and it's like, you know, you need to keep that secure, and doing just the basics of things like, you know, get a password manager, use don't use the same password. You know, those kind of small changes really help to then move you forward to go, you know, actually, well, I don't know my passwords. Most of my passwords I don't know. I've been using Password Manager for years, but you know, that's the way that I manage my online identity. But then it's funny, like you were saying about, you know, facial recognition. So I'm on a Mac and I can use my watch. So, you know, it's slightly different. So it's devices as well that are nearby of kind of like, you know, actually, yeah,
it's that multi-point, isn't it, as well?
Yeah,
it's not just one thing. It's where you are, what you do, what you're accessing. There's different levels and different parts to it. And I think the complexity of it that's being hidden, I think it's fantastic these days that you can do these different things and make it easier for people while still keeping it just as secure.
But then there are things like the watch. You know, do you have a pin on your watch that you have to put in first?
Yep.
Yeah.
But then it's got to be on me. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's a case of, you know, oh, I'll not bother. Well, it's attack surface, if you like.
You've just put an arrow to your key and just left your key there. Yeah.
yeah. But it's interesting. I think to Kev's point though about making it easy or easier is definitely part of it. Is if security, if it's easy to be more secure, then obviously that helps everyone, right? But if it's a, you know, horrible process of, oh, I've got to copy passwords from here to here to here, or I've got to input 6 passwords, it puts people off, and you default to, oh, well, I'll just reuse something.
I'll just write it down and post it on my screen.
Yeah.
Use the camera on my phone just to take a picture of it. Yeah, now I've got it everywhere.
I mean, Christos, is this the stuff you live, or as you try and stay away and get into the more developer-y side of things mostly?
No, I think education in general is very important. We talk about digital identities as well. And unfortunately, digital identities are much bigger of a target than your physical wallet. Now you say, you know, I have my driver's license with me, but I know you may or may not encounter a case where somebody jumps you and asks you for your wallet. And this may happen once or twice in your lifetime, whereas your digital identities and your code and your data are constantly being bombarded by bots and organized crime and cyber attacks. And it's scary to think that the proposition is as soon as you put something in the public domain, it becomes a target, whether you like it or not, no matter what kind of business you are. And people don't realize, especially, and it's okay. I mean, the developer community or the tech community is still struggling with that to understand it. But think of the 7 more billion people out there that have no idea what we're talking today about, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I log into Facebook and that's me, or I log into Twitter and I think I'm safe and that's all I do, or I log into Netflix. So if we struggle with the tech people to explain what the premise of using password managers and never managing passwords is hard, and we struggle there, think how hard it is to convince your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, or your cousin that what they're doing
I
is
don't need
like,
to think about that. It's painful.
My mom walks around with a physical notebook of all her passwords. And it's like, oh yeah, I just signed up to a new website. Let me take a note of that. I'm like, no, please don't do that. I remember she used to put a post-it behind her credit cards with her PIN number, because they said 3, she would remember them. I'm like, yeah, that's not how security works. But it's hard. And digital identities today are everywhere. You can watch TV, you can listen to music, you can log into your car these days without having some form of identity, right? And how do you protect all these things? How do companies protect your data as well? It's not just you as the end user, but every week some company makes the news because their data leaked, and you were brilliant in losing your identity, not your fault, but somebody else's fault. It's a challenge.
It's a massive challenge, isn't it? And I think we can probably all relate to parents and family members who have some less dubious ways of managing passwords. Yeah,
it's a lovely GIF the other I saw yesterday of I think it was a sheep stuck in a ditch, and it just had the caption of helping your parents with technology, and they kind of helped the sheep out. It ran out and jumped straight back into the ditch again. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Moving on to the next bit, still on the security side, Al, there was something on de-risk your lateral movement paths with Microsoft Defender for Identity.
I thought this was really interesting. Defender for Identity starting to bring in lateral movement paths, which is basically trying to show, if somebody malicious gets into your environment, how are they transferring between different services and different devices? And, we used to need stuff like Sentinel to do this, to really sort of bring it all together and be able to put the picture together to show us this stuff. But Defender for Identity is going to start doing this so that we can actually use that and actually see, whether there is a pattern that can be identified. It hooks into Cloud App Security to have policies to alert us, and then we can actually visualize it as well. So I think.
So is this more, because obviously the old days in my era, as it were, thinking about security, you'd have a big firewall and you stop anyone getting in, and once people got in, it was a big risk. Whereas now it's very much the zero trust. So internally, you don't allow anything here, and this is trying to pick up on those zero trust of people trying to get into different elements internally and matching the patterns. Very interesting.
Yeah, so it's, as I say, it's bringing that sort of high-end security from things like Sentinel, where you're getting lots of different sources, but using it within the Microsoft 365 environment. The defenders, Christos, maybe you can answer this. How many defenders are there now? Is it 4, 5 different defenders that are out there now? Seems to be a whole team of them, but they're all starting to play together to bring this information together to allow us to sort of see a bit more than we used to be able to see just with a Microsoft 365 sort of licensing.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, there will be like different products that spin up a little bit, trying to do one thing, and then suddenly they make it into this much bigger product. Microsoft always tries to do this kind of innovative, quick cycles of a smaller product, and then when that happens, they try to unify everything. So rather than being a branded house of brands, I think it's the branded house, right, where everything falls into one product. I come from marketing. My manager used to say that all the time. I was like, okay, it makes sense now. But I believe that from an admin perspective, there are some fantastic tools there to allow you to monitor your infrastructure and your users and their behavior. And in some cases, you don't even have to monitor them yourself. It's a case of using AI behind the scenes to raise alerts and notify you for things that are unconventionally running in your platform. So a lot of tooling, you can run it everywhere for any cloud or on-prem or any other cloud infrastructure that you have. And being able to have this kind of a 30,000 view of this is everything I have and this is everything that's running, and unified under one umbrella, it's great. But I agree, there's a little bit of a like frameworks. We need the next framework to unify all the frameworks, and then you have yet another product there. So we have
absolutely.
And in the darkness find them. Yeah.
I think the nice thing about this is it's all coming into that same security admin portal, and that's really, there's more and more things coming into that to make it just easier to get to without having to go off to the multitude of products that actually sit underneath that portal and power all of those different panels in it.
Yeah, which we're getting there. Neatly on to one of the other announcements of the general availability of the Microsoft Data Loss Prevention Alerts dashboard. And I think this will greatly simplify things, bring you alerts from all the different systems and platforms, especially around Microsoft 365, and being able to see those alerts. And again, Al, is what you're talking about, that single place, that ease of accessing things. It's another nice progression towards that.
And I think this allows much better visibility of that information as well, where sometimes it's been, well, what's actually triggered it? That's been the question that you've asked. And this actually shows the information much more clearly, shows you, the documents, the email, shows you the metadata that's actually triggered the alert. Just makes it more visible, makes it easier, which I think, when we look at data loss prevention, we're not necessarily having IT folks managing all of this. You might be having your security folks who are looking at it from a very different perspective, just to say, what is the reason, what is the action I need to take, and it makes it clearer, makes it easier for them to act, which is crucial in this space.
I think this is, again, the conversation we're just having, right, about security and making it easier. That compliance center has had so many updates. I think every time I've seen a demo of it, it's just made much easier to get things set up, and it becomes more
every
about.
time I've tried to give a demo, it's changed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. Is every time you go in, and I keep losing things in it. They add new things or move it. And it's like, all right, now where was that last time I was in here? Cloud App Security was my last one. Now, where have they moved that to? And yeah. But I think that's it. That everything's consolidated under the Security Center, Compliance Center, and that's a really, really good move.
Fantastic. Often used, moving away from security now in the Power Platform. There was a kind of slightly, I think, unheralded announcement that I really liked around data source environment variables. And really what this is when you've got your Power Platform, it's that ability to deploy using automated pipelines and kind of have them as variables, which means you can swap out. We work with a lot of clients, and we'll often develop something internally and then want to move that into their environment, and you suddenly find you have to redevelop it, redeploy it, change all the names, make sure they're correct everywhere. Something that I know Christos and Gary, we were talking about this, the Power Platform developer versus the trying to not say proper developer, but that kind of way of doing it has been there in the DevOps pipelines for a while. To be able to do that same thing in Power Platform, I think it's brilliant. Really good news.
Yeah, I think this update's come a little bit too late for me, because I was just on a project that could have really done with this, where you're having to say you want it to, you've got an app that's using the SharePoint connection, you're moving it to a different tenant, it's got a different URL, different IDs, all those kind of things are just hard coded. So you're having to go into the files, make manual changes. I think I actually wrote a PowerShell script to do it for me in the end, because it was so horrible. So doing things like this, it just, again, it promotes that good practice of, do your dev in a different tenant. Even, you've got developer tenants that you can spin up, do it in there before moving it into then your test environments and then into production. Just prove your deployment. But, again, to do that best practice, there's a few things that then got in the way that made it more difficult. So by, removing those steps, making it a lot more simplified, a lot more straightforward as well, because it's in the, where you're building your apps in that authoring kind of canvas, just again makes it a hell of a lot more accessible.
This is just one more step towards making the Power Platform more palatable to the enterprise. It's repeatable, it's provable that it actually works, and then you know that you're redeploying exactly the same elements, which has always been a challenge for all organizations, especially when you say, well, you should be going through the dev, test, prod life cycle. Excellent. Show me what the process is. Oh, yeah, it's manual. That's never, ever gone down well.
How many pages is your document?
Yeah.
And how many manual steps and little changes you need to make? Yeah, it's...
So this is probably about 3 or 4 years too late for a lot of organisations, but it will make a massive difference.
It will help. And I think go along with that, also the COE starter account, the Centre of Excellence for Power Platform, which has been a great tool for a good few years now, I think, is now available in Dataverse for Teams. So making that embedded within your teams, I think, will make life easier and easier to access, getting it out there to people.
But again, this makes sense because those organisations that aren't actually investing in the full Dataverse, but they are using Dataverse for Teams, that means they stay in that same level of investment witithout any additional costs, which is good because it means more organisations are likely to use the COE. And that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. That means that they're going to have more visibility and make it easier.
And also you want to uncover all those environments that have been created in your tenant. If you didn't realize that
Dataverse for Teams, no.
Well, it's also all of those flows that aren't being used, all of those power apps called Test and Kevin 1 and Gary 2. Identify all of those so you can get rid of them.
I think moving on, the next one outside of Power Platform is Teams, and I really liked this article that got shared, again, talking about security, but this was about frontline workers. I think Microsoft's been pushing the frontline worker story for the last couple of years, but it's such an important one that it's that digital transformation. It's getting those digital processes out to as many people as possible. And this really was for getting headsets. And I'll let Gary do his thing in a minute about the headsets, but the idea that you can have these sort of flashlights and cameras with a headset and get that real live support. It's you could say it's budget HoloLens, but the ability to sort of tap on there, get your answer from someone in Teams, get that feedback live on a video very easily, hands-free, which a lot of these people are going to be very hands-on, is a great one.
Yeah.
And Gary, who do you think is going to use this most?
Well, I mean, the one thing I was thinking actually, because obviously the other week, Universal Soldier, we were talking about, the deal with the HoloLens, and I think we probably looked at that and went, yeah, but this is like a 10-year deal. It's really far away. And then we've seen this, which is very much like, no, hang on, this is now. Okay, it's not the full, stack or anything like that, but it's solving a problem right now. And I can see this actually being, well, if it's costed right and it doesn't cost a fortune, then I can see a lot of organizations actually going, well, yeah, we can make use of this technology. We can make use of it straight away. And you don't have the, the HoloLens kind of outlay. So yeah, it's really interesting to see this, but I can't quite get the picture of Universal Worker out of my head now, which is a very different film.
And the other one on Teams, and I think again this slightly goes in the frontline worker, but not others. But it's those approvals within Teams, which have been great for a while, and again talking about the frontline workers being able to access those. But they've been taken even further with that integration with things like DocuSign and Adobe Sign, where you can add your e-signatures in that. So it's kind of improving that process for being able to get the approvals, and for those that need more than just your digital identity. Apparently that pen is still needed in some cases, it seems, that you can capture those as part of it as well. I've had many an argument with people about, but hang on, if it's digital and you're writing it down, can't you just sign in with your AD account or your Azure AD account? But apparently occasionally not, and there are situations where it's needed, and it's good to see it integrated nicely on there as well.
Be interesting to see if those approvals are actually being you're getting prompted for those approvals at times when you can actually take action, to distinguish it. Because we've just received an email before, right? Can you approve this holiday? Can you do whatever? Whereas now it's coming through the Teams interface. It's a lot more in your face, if you like, because that's where you spend most of your time working. But I wonder if it's checking your calendar and going, "Ooh, there's a spot free there. I'm going to put the notification in and let you, do that in a so notify
you when you're free."
Yes,
that would be a good step, wouldn't it? Yeah, we've got an approval for you to do, and just to give you a notification when you're green.
Yeah, pretty sure.
You noticed you thought you were going to go and have a cup of tea. How about instead you do all these 20 approvals you need to do instead? Yeah.
Sure.
But no, that's a nice idea. We'll go on to a couple of bits and events. I'm trying to wrap up and keep on the half hours as much as possible. Gary, you had a nice blog post about tidying up your to-do tasks with a bit of CLI.
Yeah. So this was just fixing one of my own problems, really, of being in to-do and searching and finding lots of completed tasks showing up in my search results, which just I didn't need because I'd already done them. So I just wrote a script that will go through all of your lists in to do, and if you've got a completed task, it will just delete them all and get rid of them, so you get a nice clean slate. Obviously the ones that you're still working on are still there, but yeah, it was just nice.
Or if you're fed up, you can just clear out the non-completed ones as well.
Remove the query.
Again.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're using PowerShell, using Bash, just run that and it will tidy everything up for you.
Really nice. Got a few events coming up. What's it, next week, which I'm panicking about slightly, but we have the Microsoft 365 Virtual Marathon. I think, Al, you've got a couple of events there.
Yep, I've got a couple of sessions, Microsoft To Do, good for your mental health, and how to measure well-being and productivity with Viva Insights. I can barely say it. That's a bit of a concern, isn't it?
That's good stuff. And I've got Microsoft Search, the what, the why, and the how going on there, and also a new one, which is why I'm panicking slightly, building a culture of knowledge sharing. So talking about Viva topics, not just using the technology, but how you can actually get people to be doing some of it as well, and actually building that culture, getting people to support it as well. So
that sounds like a good one. I might turn up for that one.
I'll let you know first, but no, yes, it should be a good one. It's sort of building on things I've been thinking about and talking about a little bit recently. So we'll try and pick up on that one. Al, you've got, is that next week, the next security and compliance user group?
Indeed. So we've got Steve Goodman doing advanced session controls and cloud app security, and Victor Hedberg, Azure AD, how to extend your current IAM processes to the cloud and beyond. So yeah, sign up for that. Should be good.
Very nice. And we have, actually, I'm going to jump around slightly. The other one to mention is Teams Nation. I know, Al, you're running a track on that one. I'm sort of helping out with the moderating there and also talking on Microsoft Search. There's a lot of people, and we've got Jeff Teepers going to be along for the keynote, so it should be a very good event, that one. And then just a couple of smaller events, the Microsoft Business Application Summit. So for everyone who loves the Dynamics and Power Platform side of things, May the 4th. So make sure you get registered for that. And also Microsoft Builds for all you developers who love the good stuff. Christos, are you talking at Builds at all?
You know what? I've been trying to crack Build for the last few years, but as an external, I could never do it. So now that I am where the cheese is actually made, I may have an ability to speak. We're trying to line up a workshop for identity developers or for developers that want to do identity. Not sure if it's going to land. They have not. They don't have a lot of slots. And usually the challenge with Build is that everyone wants to present their feature or their baby. So the focus is more about end-to-end scenarios and how you build a lot of technologies together to build something rather than trying to showcase your baby. Identity obviously fits in everything. The question is, how can we make it work? So in many cases, we work with other teams to present on identity. Like if there's something new for, let's say, Azure Web Apps, right? I don't know, managed identity or the new Easy Auth stuff that has landed recently, then that becomes part of the session, but it's a 5-minute or a 3-minute mention rather than trying to dedicate a full 45-minute session around a topic like that.
Whole thing.
I don't have one session this year, but who knows, maybe next year I'll actually have my own session presenting on something.
Well, if there's any way we can vote for it, we'll definitely back that.
It's not right, people.
Yeah, exactly. I think we'll wrap up part 1 on the news there. So thank you very much. If you're listening, part 2 will be out next week, and we'll be speaking all about security and identity with Christos. So keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, thank you very much, and see you next week.